So, any level, well, as we've explored, something could be done at any level. That's a very good point. But here, some people are saying B1. I would say that if we do it in a traditional fashion, that B1 would definitely have no trouble understanding it for gist. And some people would go with A2+, which I think also would be possible. Okay, so let's now have a look at some problems that learners of English might have with this particular video in terms of decoding. So it might be easy to understand for just to even B1 learners, but they will not, of course, understand every word. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link to a list of files. And can you please play track number 1 and tell me what is in the gap fills? So what is in the gaps?
I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball. I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball. I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball.
First track and type what you think is in the gaps.
I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball.
I am. This is really interesting. Some people are hearing I am. Some people are hearing I was.
I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball.
This is fantastic. How many words is a good one? Yes, this is a good question to ask the learners. Okay, I'm too stressed right now to count, sorry. So, this is fantastic. Here is the actual answer. So, I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball. And so we had differences about I was. Some people heard I'm. Some people did not hear just. And some people didn't hear the article. Okay, this is just fantastic because the kind of thing allows people to explore what's going on there. So what we're going to do is soundtrack 2 is just I was isolated. And can you play soundtrack 2 and tell me which words, which sounds you feel are missing? How does it sound? How does it sound to you? Track 2.
I was
I was. Mm-hmm. I was. Okay, some people don't hear. What? Some people don't hear. So to me, it sounds like I doesn't sound like I, but something like or shva. And I hear the shva in was is really, really, really weak for me. So it's something like I was. Okay. Do the same with number 3. How does it sound for you?
looking out.
Yes, I will post
Looking out.
one more time. Here it is. Link. And this is track 3. logging.
Looking out.
So Anna is hearing that O is not pronounced in out. And yes, so there is okay. So there is definitely catenation, right? Now, and I personally don't really hear the T there. Okay.
Looking out.
This can differ, I think, and when we explore this with the learners, and this is basically one of the tasks that we do with the learners, and when they are hearing something different from me, I'm fine with that. What about number 4 here? Again, what is missing for you? How does it sound for you? Yes, no, the. And let's speed up. So the next one will be here. And the next one is one of my favorite ones. Just. Some people didn't hear just. Why? Just. I'm not hearing any T here. To me it sounds like just. Okay. And the next one? Turn it off. 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 Turn into. Yeah. So there is a big question whether there is the actually. Right. So I'd say that no, that turn into and there is no the and there is continuation. Okay, let's do one more. This is track 7. What do you hear in the gaps?
It was right after Sully had that incident happen to him with the geese. It was right after Sully had that incident happen to him with the geese. It was right after Sully had that incident happen to him with the geese. It was right after Sully had that incident happen to him with the geese.
Okay, so the answer is it was right after Sully had that incident happened to him with the geese. And again, track 8. Okay, I spoiled it for you. What do you hear in track 8? It was. Okay, so glottal stop, or it was. Okay, right. So there is a micro pause there, probably glottal stop, but again, T is reduced, and the schwa is very very weak. The next one, that. How is it pronounced? That. Glottal stop again. And the last one is with that. With the here. Single sound here. So the same sound happened twice, and it just turns into one sound. So with them. Okay. So, and let's go through here just one more. And there are just 2 gaps here. Track 11.
I was the only person there that seemed to see this. I was the only person there that seemed to see this. I was the only person there that seemed to see this. I was the only person there that seemed to see this.
Okay, fantastic. Here, so there was actually there. I was the only person there that seemed to see this. Let's listen to track 12. Should be there. I think I heard it.
I was there that
I was. What about track 12?
there that
Okay, track 13. Yeah, sorry. Confused the tracks.
there that
Track 13. Sorry.
there that
So I would say that the diphthong is reduced. So instead of there, he says that there. And this was one of the problems, my own problems, that I identified at C2 levels. I couldn't catch there is because of this quality of there. And the final one seemed to. I hope that it's there, and that's track 14.
seemed to
Okay. Right. Seemed to. Okay. So again, what happened is 2 is of course not full form, and also the is missing at the end of the verb, or at least the and to run into each other. So okay, so here is the full list of everything that we've explored, and my question is: do you see any patterns emerging here? So. Okay, the first question is, how many of these do you think are completely unique? And how many of these are actually pretty standard pronunciation, perhaps not on dictionaries, but pretty standard? They're all standard. Most of it is standard. I would agree. So if you go to a dictionary, you will not see just as the pronunciation of just, but basically we are not in the realm of jungle, that using the metaphor that Richard used. We are basically talking about something pretty standard that I would say the learners need to adjust to, because if I was almost always pronounced others, then they really need to know that in order to start catching that. So this is one point. This is standard. This is not jungle yet. And the second one is, do you see any patterns emerging? Is there any method to the madness? Or is it just 12 disparate, unconnected events? Function words weaken. In what ways? Here, is there anything that happens over and over and over and over and over again? Reduced. But this is what the learners say. They say, okay, the speakers swallow things. Here, swallow doesn't allow me to work with this. Last sound disappears. Well, yeah, this is something that I can work with and that I could adjust to. last sound disappears. This is a pattern, right? Vowels here, and here glottal stop. This is not just last sound disappears. Which sound often disappears at the end? T and D here, and basically what happens is when you take like every second video on YouTube. This is what you discover there. So T and D missing at the end of words, and basically lots of standard forms like just and the, and also vowels missing. Like schwa is very often reduced, and if we look at the functional words like was here, so I would say that there is a standard pronunciation, which is very difficult to catch, but as Richard and as Sheila pointed out, it becomes easier to catch if you look at it in chunks. So the chunk "us" is longer, and again, it's pretty standard, and I can train to catch "us" and decipher it as "I was." The same with "it was," and so on. So, and have a look again at this. So we see that T and D seem to be missing a lot. Schwa seems to be missing also a lot. There are some chunks, for example, with that are very frequent and that tend to miss this the sound. Which of these examples are concerned with grammar? Which of these examples will affect the learner's ability to decode grammar? Turn into here. So past simple here, well, obviously because we were focusing on an extract where Leo was talking about a past event. Here we can see that a lot of here is the endings, the verb endings disappear, and also the weak pronunciation of the functional verb also affects the learner's ability to decipher past simple, right? And what this means is, unfortunately, that when we send out the learners to listen autonomously to all the wonderful world of English outside of class, they are not, for example, past simple, and as a result, they are not acquiring past simple. If they are not hearing those the endings and traces of those here, if they are not hearing the word to be at all, they are not acquiring the verb to be. So, and just briefly, so basically what I would say is, just to recap, so we have this dictionary forms, very, very clear pronunciation, something that often happens in course books here, and this is this white, the white area on the left. There is the jungle where is the mush, and there is a lot of variability, and the learners need to learn how to adjust to that, and Richard demonstrated some wonderful activities last time about that. And there is this green area. It's not red, it's green, because I think it's basically the norm that learners need just to learn about, and then this becomes something that they can catch. And a lot of that is concerned with grammar. Your grammar makes people cry, and it also makes people cry because they can't hear it and can't acquire it here. So if you look at these grammar points, so negatives, what will happen with negatives in fast speech? Regularly, as a norm, really. No, maybe, right? So here, but what also happens is, for example, you look at didn't, and t tend to disappear. So very often, one of the most standard pronunciations of didn't is actually din, right? And of course, if the learners do not stop and find out that, it's very difficult to actually decipher that word, because take any word in your language, delete 2 sounds out of 5, do you recognize the word? It's difficult. So past simple endings, we've already explored that. Present perfect. What will happen with present perfect? Have disappears here. So it might sound like I have, right, I have, right. Yes, yes. And of course the ending of the verb. The passives. The passives. Again, yes, to be is very difficult to catch, and endings are very difficult to catch. And so on and so forth. What about questions like does he? What might they sound like in fast speech? Yeah. So does he? Does he? And in some accents, this is actually also the norm. And again, this was something that I hadn't figured out after thousands of hours, I think, of exposure, until I stopped it and found this out. And superlatives, best summer. Okay, that is very difficult to hear. Best summer. Best summer. Okay. So, and for me, this kind of means that unless I help my learners with that, when we actually study these structures, I'm doing, unless I help them to start catching that in real speech, I'm doing them a disservice. And this especially concerns learners at, for example, B1 level who have lots and lots of fossilized mistakes. And my guess is one of the reasons they have them is that they do not hear. So, and to share, so basically we need to have a look at all the activities that we might have for listening decoding, and I would say that there could be a broad categorization into proactive activities here, so something that we can predict the learners will have problems with, and we've just seen a lot of things that we could predict with grammar, and of course with new lexes and functional expressions too. And there is reactive. There are reactive activities when we actually explore what the learners couldn't catch in this particular text. So this is basically one generalization that that really helps. What it helps with is it helps with thinking about the syllabus. Here, if I have grammar in my syllabus, then am I doing some decoding that is connected to grammar, for example? And another category, another 2 categories of of decoding activities is best illustrated by the following story. So this happened 3 years, I think, ago when I first joined my company, and one of the students he wasn't my student, he was a new project manager, because I work in company, in an IT company, and he was at the B2 level. Every week he had to listen in on 2-hour-long meetings, and the meetings were between his British customer and the American team. And he was listening in a role in which he was not allowed to participate, so he needed to understand which agreements they had reached and then instruct his team. And the awful thing was that he was unable to understand either party. So at some point, the whole team met me in the corridor and said, okay, we've got a recording, let's go and transcribe. And these were the words, so we transcribed, I don't know, 3 or 4 sentences, and these were the words that it turned out that they couldn't hear in the customer's speech. And this was the overall feeling in that room. And I would say that the reason they reacted like that is that these are words that are elementary level, and everybody knows that. The learners kind of have a feel that this is very simple. And their reaction, I think, was that if I'm not even catching elementary words, then I'm not even elementary. And how do I progress to upper intermediate here? So how could I help them at that point? So the first thing that I could help them with is really understand what is going on, like we have just done with Leo's video. And like we've done with Leo's video, we decluttered the cows. Here we tried to see what is happening. Here, hear those missing sounds and categorize them. And then visually categorize them, right? So this was one thing that really could help the learner to see what is going on and to demystify the cows. But the question is, here they are. They know that one of the standard pronunciations of that is that. What will happen next time they hear this standard pronunciation, not terribly reduced, but this standard pronunciation in fast speech? What will happen? Will they hear it? Will they notice it? Will they recognize it better? Will identify the word? I did an experiment, and I really needed to help that guy. And I got some software that, and I got a TV series, and that software, using the subtitles, it broke up the episode into hundreds and hundreds of files, and I was able to find files that contained the word that, right? And I played the first sound to that project manager, and I asked him if he could hear the word that. And the answer was that it's not there. So even though he knew how it might be pronounced in speech, he could not catch it. So we worked a little bit with that sentence. He kind of identified it, although I don't think he did. And then we moved on to the next one. And again, the same situation. The word is not there. So the good news is that by about half of the list here, so about 15th one, he started actually catching them quite consistently. In this particular accent, of course, so this does not guarantee that he would hear it in a different accent, but at least he started catching this consistently. And this kind of illustrates two other broad types of activities. So the first one is here diagnosing what's wrong, what we are not hearing, and raising awareness of all the features and finding out. A good question, Jess, I will just address that, and finding out what's going on. But this in no way guarantees that the next time they hear it, they will catch it. And basically what they need is intensive training, right? And just, this is a very good question. He had to suspend disbelief, I would say. Yeah. So, and in decoding lessons, very often they have to suspend disbelief until for 2 or 3 lessons until we start really feeling the progress. So, and just to summarize this thing, so we have awareness raising and diagnostics, and there what the learners need is they need to listen a lot of times to the word that they're not catching. They need all the support that that we could possibly give them. So highlighting the words, the sounds that are not there, putting them in groups on the board, and really highlighting everything visually. Then the learners really benefit from understanding what's going on. And like Richard demonstrated last time, they really do benefit from pronouncing that stuff. Okay, guys, may I answer about software on the forums a little bit later, because I don't quite remember the right name, and I don't want to throw you off track. So basically, so this is about decoding. So a lot support using multiple senses, and with training, I'd say very close focus on just one feature, and then hopefully after catching a few, they will build the skill. This is basically the same thing as when you go to the gym. Here, unless you sit 20 times, you will not achieve any progress. So, and so now let's have a look at some activities that the teachers in class do, and and let's see how these activities first fit into the framework that we were discussing earlier. And sometimes, basically, when you decode here, you just scrap part of the framework, scrap part of the lesson, and replace it with the decoding activities. Sometimes you just introduce a couple of small tweaks, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And I just wanted to show you a couple of options just to get you thinking more about all the different alternatives that there are. So, and in this video that we're going to watch, so the teacher is using a course book. He is not using an authentic text, and he is doing basically a standard listening lesson with the lead-in and with the listen for gist. But then when he is at this part where he listens, where the learners listen for specific information or listen for detail, he introduces a tweak. And the tweak is, so the course book contained some questions where the learners needed to write a one-word answer. So for example, what are the benefits of this approach? And there was something like economic benefits, blah, blah, blah. And the teacher asked the learners to write not just the answer, but the whole sentence that contained the answer. And so when he was exploring the learners' answers to that exercise, the fact that they were writing down whole sentences and catching something and not catching something there allowed him to explore decoding skills. So we're going to listen to watch this in a second. And I have the following questions for you. So the first one, okay, here is just the screenshot. And what types of support do you already see here? So what do you think you will see? So we've got listening a lot of times, we've got visual support, understanding, and pronouncing. What do you see there already? Here, so his board book work is really clear, and what you can see is that he boarded all the answers that they had, different options they heard, and somehow used that to explore the sounds. Okay, so we're going to listen, and here are and here are the questions. So first, while you're listening, while you're watching, so what is his procedure? How would you summarize his procedure? And there is a bit where he kind of raises their awareness. And so does he only give them visual support, or does he involve anything else? And finally, how does he provide training, right? And how many times do the learners, for example, hear? So I am going to post this the link to this 3-minute video to the chat box. So again, what is the procedure in general? What about awareness raising? What kind of support? And how much training do they get? How many times do they hear?